the success of your gym will be contingent upon how much you care and how much your people care. And it can't be contrived because that's obvious. It's real. You have to. I know you're in this business because you care, because I wouldn't have let you sign a franchise agreement if that was not the case. And enforcing that culture and hiring people that care as well is critical to your success. And to your point, if you are an empathetic person, if you're high on the EQ side, the emotional quotient, and you get fired up from helping people succeed, from showing people that they can conquer a giant obstacle, from allowing someone to put in hard work and then reap the reward and guiding them through that process. If that is something that motivates you, this is a fantastic job. Today we're joined by Michael Jones from Starting Strength Plano. Michael is a starting strength coach. He's in the Dallas gym at the moment. He works for Brent Carter, the owner of several gyms in Texas and soon to be all over the country potentially. Michael and I bumped into each other at the latest coaches conference, and I was like, holy shit, Michael, you look great, man. I don't know. Tell me what you've done. You're almost unrecognizable. You've leaned out.
Oh man.
So yeah, I thought Michael and I would get on the podcast today, talk about his role at Starting Strength Plano, talk about his personal story with Starting Strength, talk about his career progression as a coach, and whatever happens to pop up. So welcome, man. Thanks for having the conversation.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed seeing you at the conference and before at other functions. Currently, I am team mentor and staff coach at Plano, which I stepped into about a month ago. And Brent graciously, when a position opened, he let me know. He was, it's been a mentor and good friend for some time now, and mentored me since the Dallas gym opened actually in 2019. And I came in as an apprentice coach. When I found out we were opening, I had to come here. I was mostly inspired. I think when I heard Brent Carter was coming, I had known his the great content from Y5's video, which just made me come out here to have to meet him.
I'm glad you guys have a good time over there. The photo that you posted on Instagram when you left the Dallas gym was pretty great. One of your fellow coaches was holding you in some sort of cheerleading pose as you.
That was a client actually.
Oh, okay, good.
It was a client, and he's a Jake. He's a great, solid lifter. And one day he found out I was like, burnt ends are my favorite barbecue treat. Mm-hmm. And he got done training at the 7:00 class and went home and made some, like hacked them in his oven and frying pan, and then brought them up here to me so I could eat some burnt ends with him at the gym before I left for the day. So yeah. Super great guy. Can't say enough about him. I just saw him a couple weeks ago at a Van Halen cover band concert. So that was sort of cool.
Burnt ends and hair metal from the 80s.
Yeah, man.
That's a good man, right?
Yeah.
Hey, so before we get too off track with a bunch of nonsense, which we can save for later, I want to know your story. So clearly you've had quite a transformation in the past year or so since the time I saw you last. I just want to hear in general what has Starting Strength done for you, because I know basically all the coaches have some sort of story where when they found the program, it's helped them in some really meaningful way, and it's prompted them to make this their career. So tell us yours.
Sure. I started career looking in academia. I wanted to be a professional philosopher of all things. And I was playing rugby in college and, following various YouTube personalities. And I was lost as a lifter, and I kept tweaking my back and didn't know what I was doing. I ran Texas Method, and I said this to Rip once, with front squats instead of low bar back squats, which was not making my back any stronger. And I did some online stuff with Jalazinski, who does some great online stuff, and I think he moderates the Facebook page.
That's Joe, right?
With, yeah, Joe
Hmm.
Jalazinski,
Hmm.
who's super super great and accessible coach. And then I found out Deaton who's down the street from here, had a squat deadlift camp that I went to, and when you come face to face with the material, which I perused the blue book and the gray book, but when you come face to face with somebody who lives and breathes it, it's a completely different experience than
Hmm.
trying to do it on your own. Um, and about that time, I was teaching at a local high school literature, and they found out I was into lifting, and the students noticed I was sort of built like a lifter, and I got sort of drafted for coaching the strength coach for the football team.
And this was in Alabama, wasn't it?
This was in Dallas.
Oh, okay, got it.
This was in Dallas, and the first year that I was the strength coach, first time in school history, we went to state, and we developed a reputation that year for having the hardest hits. And my athletes, when there would be big hits on the field, they would taunt their opponents yelling "hip drive" because that's what I was yelling at them in the gym. And they say, "Hey, Coach Jones, those guys, their glutes are underdeveloped. They don't have hip drive, do they?" Like, no, they don't have hip drive.
Let me pause you there because I want to make sure that that this is a complete narrative. Are you quite convinced starting strength was the difference maker there? So in other words, was the team makeup similar to the prior year? Was the competition similar to the prior year? Would you say that if we're being totally objective about this, that the main variable that changed was the strength training, and that's the thing that led them to a better outcome?
I what I do know is that I came into this program with a bunch of athletes that squatted high, were scared of heavy weight, if they squatted at all, and taking kids from squatting 65 pounds to 225 in a linear progression. That's what I observed, and getting kids to, bigger kids to 400-pound squats and consistent 300-pound deadlifts at a small school with small kids. I know from hearing what they told me that it made a difference. One of them was a hockey player who did football on the side, and he talked about how after training in the starting strength style, that he dominated the ice suddenly. Surprise.
Yep.
But he's hitting everybody, checking everybody harder, and people were sort of scared of him on the ice.
Nice. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, yeah. Please continue. I just wanted to pause you there to make sure that was the main difference.
sure. Yeah, and so the second year as their strength coach, we won state, which was super great. And about that time, the athletic department decided they wanted to go a different way in their strength program. I guess maybe other sports programs didn't like the model that I was using, and this was right after I had opted in, and right before I think my oral boards. Uh, and they decided they want to go a different way, and that's fine, which is what made me decide to make the move to Alabama to try to make it on my own.
Got it. Okay. And then, so you were helping the team win, and then the people in charge decided that was no good and to change things up. And then you moved to Alabama. And then what were you doing down in Alabama? Same type of deal, right?
Yeah, I built a gym from the ground up. We leveled the ground of trees and laid foundation and built a gym, a couple squat racks, a row erg, a couple boxes and kettlebells. But I was trying to make starting strength as a brand work in Mobile, Alabama, and I affiliated the gym and had some success, but it just didn't pull in live clientele like I wanted to do. Like the reason I left teaching and academia is because I like working with people, getting my hands on them, talking to them face to face, getting excited about a PR rather than having to type "great job" or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
And it was fine, and it was growing. I was in the black from the day one. Um, but it wasn't making me happy. It wasn't giving me the sort of gratification that I got even when I was apprenticing here at this Dallas location. I would leave here feeling better about myself, feeling better about my athletes, and looking forward to seeing them again. And although I did have a brick and mortar gym, it didn't get anywhere close to live one-on-one coaching. And anyone that works with a starting strength coach can tell you that it's one thing when you're being told at the moment what to do versus responding after the fact on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So then what prompted you to come back to Dallas?
The unhappy with the business decision I had made, and seeing how well the franchises were doing. And I had a wise friend when I was trying to make this decision about coming back, say, who would you rather be stuck in a foxhole with? And for me, that answer was Brent Carter.
Cool.
And there was a position becoming available or been made available, and it was, I don't know, a gift from the gods is my best explanation.
Yeah. It just happened to work out perfectly.
It worked out. I'm really humbled by the situation because I really couldn't be happier working at the Plano location. And we got real young, strong athletes squatting in the high threes, and I also got like 87-year-olds that are doing box squats to plates, and them being able to squat to a bench and stand up is the best thing of their week. And it's everything. It's great. It's the most gratifying job I've ever had.
Awesome. So when you came back to the DFW area, did you go straight to the Plano gym?
It was basically, yeah. I there was a week interim or so when I was kicking around some options, and I would come up to. I was staying at Carter's house, and I would come up and shadow the coaches here, Jordan Burnett and Jane Payton and Brent, when they were up here. To even though I was coaching online in Alabama, I knew I had my blade was dull, and so I needed to come and observe classes. And so I spent a couple of weeks at the Dallas location shadowing other coaches and really getting my chops back as a coach, which was really helpful. So it was a couple of weeks that I was interim before I stepped into the Plano position.
Tell me about the Plano gym. So what's the staff like? What's the culture like? What are the members like? I'd love to hear anything you want to share.
The staff is great. We've got another starting strength coach there, Jacob Tice, who is recently credentialed and developing really, really quickly, and he's great with the clients and gives them the sort of sense of guidance that they need when they have questions. Okay, coach, you told me you want me to do a heavy, light, medium. What's that mean? And so he'll work with them one-on-one and be very handhold's not the right word, but he offers the right amount of guidance in that situation. And so he's my other staff coach. And I've got 2 apprentices that I'm working on developing, and they're great. Daniel Rodriguez, who I believe is opting in the spring. Mm-hmm. A lot of promise, a very promising young coach. Yep. He's got a background in linguistics. I think he's got a PhD in linguistics, and his full-time gig is like translating biblical text from Hebrew. And he's always got interesting things to say. It's very random. It's very random.
All you academics figured out that there's no money in philosophy and linguistics and all these things you pay a bunch of money to get educated on, and now you're adding some value to the world by getting people stronger.
Yeah, man. It's I got $10 words, but it's not practical, man. It's just a pie in the sky ideal thing when helping people in real life is rather than pontificating prosaically about existentialism, we're getting people strong.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So how about the members? Do you have any interesting member stories you want to share from the Plano gym?
Yeah, I got one I was just talking about. one of my clients, one of my athletes, Aaron, he he's been with us for a couple of months, and he had to travel for a week and was terribly worried about losing a lot of the progress that he'd made, because not only he was traveling one week, he'd be back the next, and then traveling the next. And he came in today, concerned about losing his gains that he's fought so hard to make. And he seemed like, besides that, he seemed well fed and well rested. And he'll be traveling again in 2 days, and so we just ascended his squats on a coaching whim, and he PR'd his set of 5 squats by 25 or 30 pounds, and then another 20 or 30 pounds of a deadlift triple. And that gives him, and so now he's about to go back on a business trip for a week and has this like overflowing confidence that he's about to walk back into his office today, and he's like, nobody's going to understand. Nobody's going to get what it's like to have 300 pounds in your hands. But he's got the sort of like confidence that he's done it, and he's going to go into his vacation and come back real excited to keep getting strong. And now we've got some baselines that he didn't have before, that he's going to be able to work through and get past.
Where is he traveling to, out of curiosity?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Take advantage of our new nationwide membership. We
that's a great question.
That members at Starting Strength gyms can train at any participating starting strength gym in the country, provided they've got an open spot in one of their sessions, no extra charge.
Yeah, and I don't think he is anywhere near. I was teasing him this morning about, now that he's been training at a starting strength gym, that he's really spoiled. And I didn't mean spoiled from like the coaching perspective, but he walks in, he's been instructed before he's walked in that he's needed to eat and sleep, his digital logbooks on the TV, his notebooks right there. The barbells are dusted and cleaned. The rack is easy and open waiting for him. He can go get one of these beautiful Strength Co plates that fits so nicely in your hands, and it comes off so nicely off of those plate trees that it's so easy to get ready to do the hard stuff. When if you go to one of these box, it's a nice experience. Yeah. Whereas if you go to one of these box gyms, it's like, can I find a bar that's not bent, or one that has knurling or something?
Can you find a level platform to stand on, for God's sakes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you guys are lucky there. You're at the Dallas gym recording this conversation, and then you've got the Plano gym, which is what, 30 minutes away?
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes north.
Where you're based. I think Brent and Andrew have purchased 2 additional gyms in DFW so far, so I know they're looking to do Fort Worth next. And then I'm not sure where they're looking to do the 4th one, maybe Frisco or something. But
I'm not sure.
And then they've got San Antonio. So the DFW community is responding to the experience you guys are providing. Tell me about that experience. So what is it like from the moment somebody contacts you at the Plano gym through their first several sessions in group training? Walk me through that experience.
This previous weekend, we've got the open house where you can come and we'll teach you how to deadlift or squat or whatever it is you need to work on that you want one-on-one attention for free from a starting strength coach. And we do those every weekend, and people sign up or people just stop in and they come in and get a feel for what we're about. And generally a class is already running. And so there's a coach that's running around coaching everybody. And I've got one that came in this last weekend. We had 2 that came in this last weekend that signed up for their first month, and they learned how to deadlift with. They did with, I believe it was myself or Brent. They learned how to deadlift with me, and then we get them excited, and they get excited, and came in this week and teach them go through the intro session with them, teach them how to squat, how to press or bench press, and then reinforce the deadlift teaching progression. And then they come in on day 1, still a little wet behind the ears, but learning how to step into a class that's already at speed, already running. And what's really great about the community, and you had mentioned this about the community at Plano, is had a young guy, 24-year-old guy that's in finance right now, or about to take his finance exams, as he puts it. And he walked in, and I introduced him. I say, "Hey guys, this is this guy. Hey, this is everybody." And he jumps in the rack, and I'm coaching, but I can hear in my periphery, they're chatting and getting to know each other. And, "Oh, here, that's the bar you want. Don't use that bar. That's the Olympic bar, or don't use that bar. That's the safety squat bar." And so they're helping getting each other up to speed. I was fussing at one of my lifters because their logbook was out of sorts, and like, "Hey, don't do your logbook like this. Jones will get mad at you, and better do this the right way." And so they really help each other out, getting through the first week until by the end of the session, they're just one of the guys, right? They're getting yelled at by me, they're getting handled by coaches, and they just have a great time and end up inadvertently part of the community because there's this communal union that happens in shared suffering, and we're all doing it.
We'll put that on the back of your shirt. Start and drink Plano.
There you go. Shared suffering.
Shared suffering.
Yeah.
Fantastic, man. Have you, out of curiosity, because I know each group training session takes on its own personality, and I'm just wondering if you've ever switched people up within the sessions to maintain a particular type of culture. I don't think this happens in Texas, but there are some gyms where the people are a little more politically divided, where I've heard from some that you'll have like a left-leaning class and a right-leaning class, and that could actually cause some conflict depending on which way the conversation goes. And just in general, different personality types, different age groups tend to fit differently or better or worse than others might. I'm just curious, how do you deal with situations like that? Or is it just everyone, it gets along well regardless, and it tends to work itself out?
This reminds me of a class I've got that it's been 3 retired gentlemen. One's retired Air Force, one's a retired attorney, and one's a retired PhD in engineering. And what has been bemusing to me is the level of both wisdom and filth that comes out of their mouth in one 90-minute session. But this week, there's been a new addition to this class. And yesterday, the first time was yesterday, and I warned the guys, guys, we got a wild card coming in. And I think they probably think it's a young lady or something like that. No, it's an 8th grade boy.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And so, noodly kid learning how to move in space. But, in this class is one guy who was featured, I think, on one of the social media posts, David, who's 71 and just pulled 415.
He was deadlifting 385 at the time of the interview, and yeah, you guys were telling me at the conference he just pulled, was it 415 for a single at age 72?
415.
415 at 72. What a badass. Good for him.
What a badass.
Yeah.
And so I'm working, and then another guy, the guy who's in the Air Force, their technique is, they're just built for their impeccable technique. You don't have to fuss at them a lot, and they know how to bear down and grind, which was an interesting lesson to offer. I between this young man's sets, I said, "Hey, come over here and watch this guy, and watch his back, watch his hips, watch how he doesn't collapse in the bottom of the squat." And this young kid watching these older gentlemen just destroy squats. This kid is getting a lot of information, and then Mike finishes his set, and then he's heard everything I'm saying while he's doing his set to this young man, and then Mike and the young man start talking about it, and start talking about that he's this kid. He at his middle school, they had a weightlifting competition, which is why he got into starting strength, and just no training experience, goes and pulls 245 off the floor, which pretty good for a untrained individual, much less an untrained 13-year-old.
Wow. How tall is he?
Yeah.
How does he weigh?
He is 5'10", 205.
Oh, okay. He's a big 13-year-old. He's a Texan.
He's a big 13-year-old. He's a Texan
Yeah,
13-year-old, and he's the pitcher, and he's on their football team. So, he's been baling hay or something. I'm not sure.
right.
Um, but that was a lot of fun, that class, bringing together these two age groups, and when I approach coaching somebody like David with the 420 deadlift, or these other guys, it's a very different coach than what manifests for the teenager.
Sure.
The teenagers, you gotta be forceful and assertive. And if I was using that level of assertion with one of my seasoned clients, it doesn't work the same.
Yeah.
And each lifter responds very differently to tone and timing of cues and the conversation after the set about what happened. What are we going to do? Whereas if I say to the 13-year-old, okay, your hips were too low in that one, he doesn't know what that means.
Sure.
And so I've got to slow him down in the rack and move him how I want for pretty much every rep on the first day, and say, this is what I mean by depth, for example.
I think that's a sign of a talented coach, meeting people
Thanks,
where they're
man.
at, right?
I've learned from, and I've said this before, the best coaches I've ever worked with were Jordan and Brent. And it's, any chance I get, I try to shadow them, because it's always an opportunity to grow as a coach. And this is something I've tossed around before, that anytime I feel like I encounter really high level athleticism, there's also a lot of humility that teachers have that they offer to the younger generation coming up. There's really good teacher-student relationships the higher the level of athletics or martial arts or whatever discipline.
Yep. Man, if I was able to train with a group like that and get into lifting weights when I was 13, I would have been much less of a knucklehead as a 13-year-old.
Yeah, man. It was pre-government shutdown, I think, but some of the best training I had was in this gym with Brent Carter, Jordan Burnett, and Matt Hebert, who's at San Antonio, and it was us four, 2-3 times a week training, and that is the best technique I've ever had, the best training I've ever had, the most consistent PRs was training with people who were a lot better than me.
Let's talk about meeting members where they're at for a minute, because I'm really happy with how well the coaches at the gyms are doing that. Mark Ripito is a total hard ass, and he's a legend, and he's pretty consistent from trainee to trainee. And it's just kind of like, we'll deal with it. You're paying me to coach you, right? And you can do that if you're Mark Ripito. But in the gyms, we don't quite have the legendary status yet. We're not necessarily known. We're always building the relationship. We're always trying to build that rapport. One of the things I like to do is just look at a member's face after a set, or read their expression when I give them a cue. Some people are not used to being told what to do in a forceful way. Some people do not like being corrected. Some people are paying for coaching, but they actually don't like to get coached. So to find the right way to massage positive feedback with corrections, I think it's what an experience requires when you're paying as much money as these people are paying, because technical perfection is important, but it's also important that the person shows up for their next training session. So there's a fine balance there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think that's dead on. You used a word a moment ago, massage in the coaching, and I'm not a masseuse, but the meeting athletes where they're at, the students, whether it's literature or in athletics, students almost every time, unless you're Rip, determine how the teacher has to be. And so it's my job not only to notice movement patterns and do programming, but if I don't have my finger on the pulse of reading, as you said, their face or their body language between sets, that's part of interpreting the situation. We, as starting strength coaches, we're really good at interpreting situations and reading technique or the next programming change necessary. But part of that close reading is also reading all of the other stuff clients are giving us. And there's not, of course, one blanket statement, one blanket rule. The coaching begins at the exception of the rule. And it is reaching into and feeling the minutia of that particular case and getting the client, approximating them as close as you can to the model while letting them know in the way that they need that you're going to guide them to the capacity they need guidance.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I find that I'm managing people's psychology while simultaneously getting them to move in line with the model, and balancing both effectively is what enables me to get them to make progress.
I agree. It's and the psychology part of it, the first time I decided to leave the Dallas location for Mobile, Alabama, the biggest lesson I learned as a coach is the effect my athletes had on me. That I left coaching that day, and I thought about the next time this person was going to squat, what their programming needed to be. And I think about it, let it marinate. And the next morning I have, oh, aha, this is what I want to do. I should have done this. And that my athletes are always on my mind to some extent. And, when I don't see them one day, it makes me sad. When I do see them, I'm really excited. But the effect that they have on me as a coach reaches a lot further than I ever expected.
Yeah.
It's why this is, for me, the best job in the world. Is it informs so much of how I orient myself throughout the day. And I need to, whether I need to go read an article or go check the forums about things or make a phone call to one of my mentor coaches, they end up being my priority whether I meant for it or not. I don't really get to leave and close the door at the end of a day, wipe my hands, and I'm done. It just, I can't do it. And I think most of the coaches I've worked with are like that. All of the starting strength coaches I've worked with are like that.
Yep. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, when I talked to the gym owners on the ops calls, on the one 2 months ago, I mentioned something that I think is really important, which is the success of your gym will be contingent upon how much you care and how much your people care. And it can't be contrived, because that's obvious. It's real. You have to, I know you're in this business because you care, because I wouldn't have let you sign a franchise agreement if that was not the case. And enforcing that culture and hiring people that care as well is critical to your success. And to your point, if you are an empathetic person, if you're high on the EQ side, the emotional quotient, and you get fired up from helping people succeed, from showing people that they can conquer a giant obstacle, from allowing someone to put in hard work and then reap the reward and guiding them through that process. If that is something that motivates you, this is a fantastic job, just like you said. So, I don't get to do it as much as I used to, as much as I'd like to, but there's a couple of people I'm working with at the moment that it's a pleasure to hear from them, because it's, when I get a text or a call, it's always just happiness and good news, and they're feeling better than they did last time we spoke. And, in 2022, that's unusual outside of what we're doing here.
Yeah, I agree. I do get super fired up. My clients tease me because when my cues work with a client or their next set goes really well, I get really excited. I like sort of jump up and down and I get super pumped up. And they're like, "You get so excited about this." I'm like, "Yeah, why? How can you not?"
Hell yeah, man. So we kind of glazed over your personal story at the beginning. I know you said you were messing around. You kind of glossed over the books, had a couple of tweaks, and then I want to hear the part that's missing. So what were your numbers like before you started doing the proper program? What were your numbers like at the end? And then lastly, what are you doing lately? How is it that I mean, you look great, man. You look fantastic.
Thanks.
So
Thanks.
Tell me what's going on.
Oh man, when I started out, I didn't know what I was doing. It was I I did a lot of front squats because they're more athletic. I don't know if you know that.
So I hear. I don't know what that
Yeah,
means, but that's what I've been told.
it increased my vertical by like none. Um,
As
uh,
long as you don't measure anything, you can make any claim you want.
it's very athletic then.
Yeah.
Um, no, I don't even know what my numbers were because it was laughable. I think I may have been
Don't be shy,
I
buddy.
may
I
have
started with a 75-pound squat, so we can, we can be open here.
I think I was front squatting 225 for a single.
That's not bad.
Um, no, not bad. And got some stuff straightened out with Jalazinski, the starting strength coach. I believe he's in Wisconsin. Um, and I didn't know what I was doing, man. I was messing around with Gear Avoid, the kettlebell long cycle stuff, where it's 10 minutes of like kettlebell clean and jerks or kettlebell snatch, and I wasn't. I was fit according to what other modalities consider fit,
Yeah, you were
but I wasn't
conditioned,
strong.
right? That takes
Yeah,
some conditioning, sure.
yeah, conditioned for that, right?
Right.
Um, and I came here to the Dallas location and was immediately put back on a linear progression. Um, I was before that, right before that, I was doing like a 20 rep squat program. And
What,
for the
155 or something?
I think I got to 225,
For
yeah.
20 reps, that's
And
pretty good.
it was I was on almost pass out afterward one. And it was in the gym with all my the athletes I was coaching.
Hmm.
And we were all doing 20 rep squats because, gains. Um,
And because screw your knee tendons, who needs them,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I got in here when we opened, and on the first week, and Carter immediately put me on LP and pause squats because I was all out of sorts. And then ran an LP out here and got put on Texas method because why not? Ran that out for a while. I remember there's one time in Texas when I was running out the deadlift in Texas method, and Carter he said, you need to do haltings, 3 sets of 8. And I said, okay, why? Because I wanted this like great starting strength coach explanation. And he gave a moment and he said, because I hate you. And
Thanks, Brent.
yeah, man, I did. I think I wanted. I think yeah, you took me to 225 for some pause squats, and I wanted to squat in the threes, and that was not happening.
Hmm.
Ran that out for a while, and then the COVID situation, the government shutdown situation happened. And at that time, I had a garage gym, and we were shut down. And some of the coaches would come over to my garage, and we'd train. And I ran it out for a while. Most recently, I was running. Jordan Burnett was online coaching me through like a 3-week Texas method, and I put up some solid numbers. 525 squat, 405 bench, 250 press, 275 power clean. I don't really talk about my deadlift, Ray.
I thought you were missing.
It was
Yeah, I thought
poverty
something
deadlift.
was missing there. But if you can
It
squat
was so my
550, we're not
deadlift
going to give you a hard time about a shitty
515.
deadlift. So
It was a 515 from the floor. Although I could rack pull like 585 for a triple. So I think I have an issue with my when it comes to the deadlift. I'm maybe I think the PC term is exertion sensitive,
huh.
which is a nice way of saying I think pussy.
It means you don't try hard enough. Is that what that means?
Yeah, I don't try hard enough.
Hence the haltings. If you're not breaking,
Yeah,
it
hence
up
the
before.
halting.
Yeah. You got over 500, man. That's you checked the box.
Yeah,
You're good. You're good.
yeah. And recently, because I like to grind hard on stuff, and Andy Baker's concurrent stuff, that's sort of a little bit of West Side flavor, some bodybuilding stuff, and then the bread and butter of the fives, has been a great way to get a sense of hitting it hard all the time, but being able to modulate the stress with different movement variations. And so I get to feel like I'm working real hard, and I am, But, today's a safety squat bar, next time is a pin squat, and it gets auto-regulated in a way that's been a very educational process as a client and a lifter myself rather than a coach.
You do get to a point in your training career where you need some variety because it's just too mind-numbingly monotonous. And you get to a point in your training career where it's like, yeah, strength is super important. I'm glad I'm this strong. Don't necessarily know if I need to be much stronger. But the interesting thing is that point is so much further along than most people imagine. We have this strength standard, right? Where you should deadlift 5, squat 4, bench 3, press 2. And for people that don't do this, that seems insane. It seems impossible. I mean, you tell me, what does that take to get a trainee to? If a trainee never misses a session, average male trainee, middle-aged guy, what is that, a 2-year process?
2 years.
2 years.
And what I enjoy showing them when they've is that on that, when you go by that sticker, it says baseline levels of strength. It's achievable almost all the time.
It's not a specialization. You're not a power lifter.
No. That is normal dude can walk around doing that. I've got a lot of athletes that you look at them and that guy looks strong, but you don't realize he's got, sticker club business happening.
Yep. And what are the women's numbers, by the way? I think it's a 315 deadlift, 250 or 225 squat.
I think it's 250. Let's see, 115 press, right?
The upper body numbers escape me. Does Brent know? He's sitting right next to you.
He's on it.
All right, he's checking. We'll get back
maybe
to you.
115, I don't know.
Yeah.
But 350, I think I can remember the number 115 and 315.
Right.
I think. Which
most women would think, wait, I'm going to pick up 315 pounds off the floor. And it's like, hell yeah, you can. There is Brent found out here. Go ahead.
Say it, Brent.
100 press, 155 bench, 225 squat, and 315 deadlift.
It's all very
press,
doable.
155 bench, 225 squat, 315 deadlift. We got a gal
very doable
at the Boston gym. Maybe Bree can find that video and link it here too. Who she in her 50s got to a 315 deadlift within. I don't want to misquote that. You can look at the story, but it was a shockingly short amount of time. 315 deadlift.
Sick.
We've got a gal in the Columbus gym who just joined a few months back, who had never lifted weights prior to joining the Columbus gym. Pete Ye, the owner of that gym, called me yesterday about this, and she decided to join a powerlifting meet in Columbus, and she will likely break a state record after training with Pete for a few months, having never lifted weights before. So these numbers sound insane to people that don't lift, and even to those that have been lifting a long time but don't know about the method that we have. And then we just produce these results every single day in the gym for the people that show up. That's a prerequisite. You have to show up to training.
That is, the consistency is essential. I don't think I've missed a training day in 4 or 5 years. But it's what's fun is that when somebody hits one of those numbers, it's great. It's a big deal. But that means that, guess what? You're pressing 205 next week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad 200 is great.
Yeah.
But 205 is coming.
Yeah.
And then 210. And that's not a hard progression to keep going either, as you said, with the consistency, and showing up to the gym.
Man, speaking of press and heavy, the heavy singles have been such a useful addition to my training. I think Delgadillo is the one that turned me on to those a few years back, and that made my presses go through the roof. Finally broke the 200 milestone, and then just kept going.
That's badass, dude. It was the last year I bench pressed one on the back burner, and I was pressing 5x5 one day a week, and then 10 singles another day a week.
Yep. Same.
And those 10 singles, it's a lot of fun. It's a 45-minute hour workout, though.
Yeah. I usually rest 90 seconds, 2 minutes between each single.
Yeah. 2 minutes.
The interesting thing is when I put up the first single, like let's say I'm doing 10 singles at 215, I'll put up the first single. and it'll get stuck and then just grind. And it's, 3-4 second rep. And I'm like, my God, I've got to do 10 of these. Interesting thing is to Rip's, the point that Rip always makes about the press is it's so technique dependent that for me, it actually gets easier throughout the set. The singles get easier as you go because your technique gets more dialed in, because each weight that you push on the press is slightly different just based on how sensitive the thing is to all the different mechanics involved and where the damn thing is relative to the middle of your foot.
Yeah, it's a long kinetic chain that just requires tons of practice.
Yep.
Which, 10 singles and the sets of fives are such a different event than a heavy single. And like you said, in my experience is my first single is almost always bad. It'll go up, but there's for sure some struggle. But by the time I hit my third single, we're going. And if it's a good press day, I'm going to strike while it's hot, and we're gonna make a 5-pound jump. And if that goes, we're making 2.5-pound jumps, and we'll see what we can do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Let's
talk some big picture stuff. You're a thoughtful guy. You have spent some time philosophizing, clearly. I would be shocked if you haven't thought about the big picture when it comes to strength training. I know Rip's talked about it a lot. I've got my own thoughts on it. It's a very broad question, but can you articulate for me why this stuff is so important, other than the obvious, other than the detailed, specific stuff we've been reviewing so far? I mean, yeah, it's cool to deadlift 500 pounds, Hey, it's an ego thing, right? I can deadlift 500 pounds. Great. It's cool for David to be 72, 73 and deadlift 415. But there's so much more to it than that. I'm curious what your point of view is.
I like that question. And I think about this a lot, and this is going to sound like a complete weightlifter thing to say. And I guess it's a cliche, but it's my paradigm. Barbell is life. And the lessons that I found that I've gained from the barbell, the most potent they have been is when I'm not training. That is when I'm facing a hard situation in life, whatever that is, that if I make the decision to rack the barbell and not try this rep, not sit down and stand up with it, that's the fail. That I need to, whatever the situation is, I have a set to do. And I need to sit down, squat down, and figure out what happens. That maybe I don't stand up that time. Maybe I do. Either way, there's something I've learned. And that strength, whatever situation it is that I've encountered in my life, I don't know it's there until I've tried it. And what I've learned with the barbell is that, especially in my early time training, is that the minute I would hit any resistance out of the bottom of the squat, nope, it's not going, put it to the pins. And there's a brief moment, this instantaneous piece of time where you have the option to keep pushing on the thing. And that moment, it tells us who we are. Are we going to keep pushing? I mean, it might drive us back into the floor, but are we going to try and push during that moment? Because that moment happens, and if you're gonna actually try the damn thing, you're aware when that thing starts to push you back down, and are you going to make the decision in that moment to keep pushing? And I apply that lesson to many cases in my life. I learned it from the barbell, though.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know if you have an opinion on the quality of the people that were sitting there at the GYMS conference, but my opinion is that the thing that's so nice about this, the thing that's so motivating about this community, the thing that I think is so important, it's our X factor, is that everybody thinks that way. And there's no way that you only think that way when it comes to lifting weights. That's how you're wired. And that's why strength training appeals to you. And then strength training hones your ability to get through the shit, to get to the other side and reap the benefits. And then when you go out into the world, you apply that exact same method, that exact same process to tragedy, to a scary situation at work, to whatever psychological or physical challenge that you're faced with, and then you're that much better at facing it. And why I think that's important is because when you accumulate experiences like that throughout your life and you get through them and you prove to yourself that you can do the thing that you were afraid of, the accumulation of those experiences is the definition of success.
Right. It doesn't get easier. The bar doesn't get lighter. You just get better at doing hard shit.
Right. And life is hard. And you're going to get kicked in the teeth. And if you're young and you're listening to this, you may not know what I'm talking about, but everybody gets kicked in the teeth. So I only have seen this type of community, this type of mentality in strength training and in martial arts. And I'm getting a little too old and a little too beat up to train martial arts as hard as I used to and as I would like to. But the beautiful thing about the barbell and lifting in line with the model is that I can still do hard stuff. I can still scare myself. I can still overcome fear. I can still reach new heights, even though my body is not what it used to be in terms of my orthopedic health due to a life of martial arts. And you mentioned at the beginning of this interview that when you were not coaching for a while, you felt that your blade had dulled. And I can tell you that anytime I get away from the barbell or doing something scary or difficult, my blade dulls too. And that's the same blade I use in all aspects of my life. So I have to keep that blade sharp. And I absolutely love being around people that feel the same way. And no matter what gym I go to, no matter what time of day, I'm surrounded by people that feel the same way. And we instantly connect on that basis. Mm-hmm. And I don't get that experience really anywhere else, like I said, unless I'm at a jiu-jitsu studio or a Muay Thai school. But those are all, mostly young guys going hard because, like I said, it's hard on the body. This is, again, something a 72-year-old guy can do to the extent where he's pulling 400 plus pounds off the floor. So
yeah,
I totally agree. It's hard to, it's like you don't know until you try, and I like to go back and forth with our friends in the YouTube comments because it's a good time for me for whatever reason. Something
the haters.
Some are haters, some are confused, some are, offended, some are on the fence, whatever. I just like to go back and forth and mainly just to sharpen my, argumentation skills and just make sure I'm not missing something. I might be missing something. But one thing that strikes me when I talk to some of these people is like, oh shit, man, you haven't done this. You haven't been through this process. You have an opinion about this. You're coming at me from a purely theoretical perspective. And I understand where you're at because all young people are there at some point where they think they know about something they have no experience with. And it's just like, you can't control other people's behavior and you wouldn't want to. But this would be so valuable for so many people if they would just go for it, and if you're watching this podcast and you haven't hit your 500, 400, 300, 200 as a guy, or your 315, 225, 155, 100 as a gal, I recommend that you do. It's not going to take that long. It will positively change every aspect of your life. I can tell you unequivocally, my career would not be where it is at. My marriage would not be where it's at. I wouldn't even know my wife if it wasn't for starting strength. My level of self-confidence, my level of physical capability, my health. This is the thing. This is the thing that touches all other things. And you might think that that's hyperbolic or exaggerated. You don't know until you try.
No, it's when I watched the third plate go onto a barbell for a guy to squat it. And we're just talking 315. We're not talking sticker. What it does for somebody to put 315 on the barbell, sit down and stand up with it. The confidence after walking out from that set that you see, they don't lose that.
And 315 is scary the first time you do it. I mean, you go to bed when that thing's in your training log for Wednesday and it's Monday. You're going to have 2 nights of going to sleep where your heart's pumping and you might even be sweating a little bit. 'Cause you're like, something about that third plate, it's frightening. And that 310, when I put that thing on my back, I felt like there was a house sitting on my shoulders, and I did not know if I'd be able to stand back up. But I did 15 reps last Friday at 305. So so this is what I tell trainees, right? When they have this mental barrier, I go, look, let's say it's 315. It's Wednesday. On Monday, you did 310. Did you miss a rep? No. All right, so you did 15 reps of 310. So I'm adding 5 more pounds to the bar, 5 more pounds. Can you do at least 1 rep? Well, yeah. Okay, cool. Then just go do 1 rep. Go do 1 rep, and we'll go from there. And then,
Yep.
And then there's this like, okay, I've made it. I've passed through the mental barrier, and then what do you know? A set of 5 goes up, and then what do you know? The next set goes up, and then what do you know? The next set goes up.
That's how Aaron today squatted 225 for 5. Is I said, let's just do 1, man. Right. And then if you hear me say rack it. If you don't, we're going.
I got your back, man. I'm standing right here. I'm not gonna. If you're falling apart, I'm not gonna let you get hurt.
Yep, and he got 5, and they were great.
Yeah, hell yeah. Man, these conversations fire me up. I want to clone you. Yeah. I love your attitude. I love your personality. I love your vibe. I'm excited to visit you guys at the Plano gym to meet the members down there next time I'm in the area. What else? Is there something you want to mention that we haven't talked about?
I don't think so, man.
Okay. Where can people follow you online? You have an Instagram
or? Shoot. I think it's Jones_SSC.
Okay. And then you've got Starting Strength Plano on Instagram. And then are you taking on online members at the moment?
I'm taking online clients right now.
Cool. So plano.ssgyms.com if you want a coach that really gives a damn and is invested in your success.
Thank you.
Michael Jones, thanks for the time, man. See you soon.
Appreciate you. Right. Thanks, Ray.
Yep.